He was wearing my shirt. That's what hit me first when I walked into our bedroom. Not the bed behind him. Not the fact that he was half undressed. Not even the way Claire snapped upright like she'd seen a ghost. No. It was the shirt. My flannel. My birthday gift from her last year. The one she said made me look like a mountain husband. Whatever that meant. The one I wore on our fall hikes. The one she always stole on cold mornings. And now this stranger was standing in it, in my bedroom, laughing. Until he saw me. Until they both saw me. I didn't slam the door when I came in. I was careful with the keys. I brought Thai food from that place in Midtown Claire loved. Even picked up a bottle of wine she once pointed at 6 months ago. I remembered. Today was supposed to be quiet, warm, a break from the noise of the world. It was my birthday. I wasn't supposed to be home until 6, but Martin, my manager, pulled me aside and told me to take off early. Go home. Relax. Be with your wife. He smiled when he said it. Claire texted earlier. Can't wait for tonight. Just us. Love you. That text was still on my lock screen when I stood there, just past the threshold, watching Ethan Bell, from my office, pull away from her. He looked at me like I was the problem. Claire was already standing up, mouth open, eyes wide, frozen halfway between shock and guilt. Her hands clutched the sheets like they could cover the silence. I didn't say anything, not at first. I just stared at him. And then, quietly, without looking away, take off my shirt. He blinked, confused. What? I stepped forward once. Take off my shirt. Claire whispered something, my name, maybe, but I didn't look at her. Ethan peeled it off slowly, like it burned. He stood there bare-chested, awkward, exposed. I could smell my own cologne on him from where I stood. He held the shirt out, unsure what to do with it. I didn't take it. I turned, walked out of the room, down the stairs, and out the front door. The food bag was still in my hand. I dropped it gently on the porch and sat down on the steps. It was 4:13 p.m. The sun was low, and I had no idea what came next. The door creaked open behind me. I didn't look. I knew it was her from the way the hinges gave, slow, careful, like she didn't want the house to hear. Claire stepped out but didn't sit. I heard her breathing above me, shallow and uneven, the way it got when she was nervous and trying not to cry, or trying to look like she might cry. I stayed sitting on the porch steps, still holding the keys, still staring at the sidewalk like it could give me answers. Jake, she said, softly. I didn't answer. After a few seconds, she sat down beside me, not close. Just enough to say, I'm here, but not enough to say, I deserve to be. You came home early. I did. Silence. Then, the worst sentence I've ever heard in my life. I met him yesterday. I blinked, slowly turned to look at her. She wouldn't meet my eyes. You, what? Yesterday, she repeated, almost whispering. At the gym. He asked if I wanted to grab coffee. We talked. He was funny and kind, and I don't know. It felt good to be seen. She said it like she wanted me to understand. Like it was a movie moment, like she'd been swept away by some fate neither of us could control. But all I could hear was yesterday. I leaned back slightly, bracing my hands on the step behind me. You invited a man you met yesterday into our house. Into our bed. Her voice cracked. I didn't plan for it to happen like that. I looked away, but it did. I was going to tell you. When? I asked. After dessert? Before gifts? She shut her eyes. A tear ran down, but I didn't care. Something in me had turned cold. Not rage, just ice. Do you even know his last name? That made her pause. Her silence told me everything. I think it's Bell, she said finally. Ethan Bell. I laughed once, dry. You don't even realize who he is, do you? She turned to me, confused. What do you mean? I stood up slowly. Ethan works in my office, Claire. He's my coworker. He sat across from me in a meeting last week. I trained him myself. Her mouth fell open, but nothing came out. You didn't just cheat, I said. You picked someone from my life, someone I trusted, and you didn't even bother to learn his last name. She stood too now, shaking her head. Jake, I swear I didn't know. I believe you, I said flatly. That's what makes it worse. And with that, I stepped back inside. I didn't slam the door. I closed it gently. Then I went upstairs and opened my laptop. Not to write a message. Not to Google lawyers. Not yet. I just opened a blank document and titled it, Day 1. Because if yesterday she met him, then today I met the truth. I sat on the edge of our bed for a long time. The sheets were a mess. Her side still warm. I didn't touch them. I didn't want to move anything yet, like I'd ruined some kind of evidence. Like I'd lose the shape of the betrayal if I smoothed the covers out. Toby lay on the floor near the foot of the bed, watching me. He wagged his tail once, tentatively, like he wasn't sure if we were okay. I didn't know either. I opened my laptop and just stared at the screen for a minute. The blinking cursor looked like it was daring me to start. Day 1. That's what I called the file. Not because I knew what this was going to become. Not yet. I just knew I couldn't pretend nothing happened. Not this time. I couldn't stuff it down like I had the last few months when things started to feel off. It had started with small things. Claire staying later at the gym, turning her phone upside down at dinner, laughing at texts she wouldn't show me, asking me if I'd be okay if she took a solo weekend to reconnect with herself. And I told myself I was overthinking. Now, I knew better. I started typing, documenting everything I could remember from that day. The time I walked in, what I saw, what she said on the porch, even the damn shirt. I wrote like I was trying to carve it in stone. I didn't know what I'd do with it, but I knew this. I didn't trust her anymore. And if I couldn't trust her, I had to trust myself. After about 20 minutes, I heard movement downstairs. Footsteps. Drawers opening and closing. Then quiet again. She didn't call out. I guess she knew better. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed. A text from her. I'm going to my sister's for the night. I'll give you space. I stared at it for a while. She didn't ask if that's what I wanted. She was still making the decisions. I didn't reply. Instead, I walked back downstairs once I heard the front door close. The house felt hollow now. Empty, even with the furniture still in place. Her half of the cake was still on the counter. I threw it in the trash. Then I opened the fridge and ate cold takeout straight from the bag, standing barefoot by the sink. It was the saddest birthday dinner of my life. But weirdly, I didn't cry. I wasn't even angry anymore. I was in a different place now. Somewhere below anger. Somewhere more focused. It wasn't about the guy, or the shirt, or even the day. It was about what broke in her, and what I was going to do now that I saw it. I didn't sleep that night. I tried. I lay down in the guest room with an old blanket Toby used to chew on and stared at the ceiling until the walls started to look like they were breathing. Around 3 a.m., I got up and opened the laptop again. I started going back through everything. Old messages, calendar invites, her social media. I wasn't trying to catch her in more lies. I was trying to answer one question. Had this already happened before? She said she met Ethan the day before. That it just happened. But the more I thought about it, the less that made sense. Claire wasn't reckless. She was methodical, controlled. She made color-coded grocery lists. She planned our honeymoon 2 years in advance. And now I was supposed to believe she hooked up with a stranger in our bed after knowing him for less than 24 hours? No. She may have met him yesterday, technically, but I was starting to think the meeting wasn't the beginning. It was the culmination. Maybe they talked before. At the gym. Online. Somewhere. So I looked, and I found something. In her email, buried under order confirmations and newsletters, there was a message from 3 days ago. Subject line, class update, yoga core with Ethan. Ethan. I clicked. It was an automated email. She'd signed up for a partner yoga class. He was listed as her assigned partner, based on gym scheduling preferences. That was the first flag. Then I checked her phone's photo backup. Not because I wanted to torture myself, but because some part of me still didn't believe this was real. She hadn't deleted everything. A single video, 12 seconds long, taken the night before. They were at the gym. She was smiling, flushed, a hand on his arm as he talked. She pans the camera around jokingly, and he leans in. Not kissing her, but close. Too close. She'd saved that. If it was nothing, why save it? I copied it to my hard drive. Then I sat back and stared at the ceiling again. The quiet of the house was louder than any noise. Toby had crawled onto the couch, sensing something in the air but not knowing what. And I thought, if this was just the start, what else don't I know? By the time the sun came up, I'd barely moved. Claire hadn't texted. I hadn't texted her. It was like we were both waiting to see who would break the silence first. She came back the next evening, not with flowers, or an apology, or some grand gesture. Just a canvas tote bag over her shoulder and a forced calm in her expression, like she was returning from a long weekend trip and not a nuclear-level betrayal. I heard the car door, then the quiet jingle of her keys, then the front door opening slowly. Toby didn't run to her this time. He stayed next to me on the living room floor, ears down. She stepped inside, and for a moment, she just stood there in the entryway, staring at me. I looked up from the couch. Didn't say a word. She finally broke the silence. I thought we should talk. I nodded, once. She took a slow step forward. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. I kept thinking about what I did. What I ruined. Still no apology. Just a general statement of wreckage, as if it had happened by accident. She sat down in the armchair across from me, and for a moment we both just stared at the coffee table between us like it might do the talking. Then she said it. I swear to you, Jake. I didn't know he worked with you. I said nothing. She leaned in. I didn't. When we talked at the gym, he never mentioned it. Not once. Now here's the thing. That might have worked if I hadn't already spoken to someone that morning. Martin, my manager. The same one who told me to go home early on my birthday. I texted him early in the morning. Quick question. Ethan Bell. Did he know I was married? His reply came within minutes. Yeah, he mentioned it. Said he met your wife. I figured it was at a work thing. So when Claire sat across from me, looked me in the eye, and lied again, after being caught, after the destruction was already smoldering, I felt something click. Not rage. Not pain. Just clarity. She wasn't sorry. She was cornered. She was calculating how to survive this. So I said it. You told me yesterday you met him the day before. She nodded, guarded. Then how do you explain the yoga class email? Or the video from the night before? Her face went pale. Eyes wide. You went through my phone? I didn't blink. Yes. That's a violation. I leaned forward. Sleeping with someone else in my bed on my birthday is a violation. She sat back hard like I'd slapped her. For the first time, she had no script. I stood up, walked to the door, opened it. I think you should go back to your sister's. But you need to go. Right now. She stood up, slowly, then walked to the door, stopped just inside the frame, and turned to me with eyes like glass. You don't even want to try? I looked her straight in the face. You didn't just break something. You buried it. She left without another word, and I stood there, listening to the door click shut. Then I sat back down, opened the laptop, and started writing again. The next day, I went to work. People say it's hard to show up after something like that, and it is. But honestly, sitting alone in that house was worse. Every room felt like a haunted exhibit. I needed noise, routine, distance from the smell of her perfume on the pillows. When I stepped into the office, nobody looked at me differently. They didn't know. Not yet. And then I saw him. Ethan. He was at his desk like nothing had happened, typing away, hair still damp from a morning shower. Probably not at his own place. He didn't see me at first, but when he did, when he looked up and locked eyes with me across the room, he froze. No smile, no nod, nothing. Just this rigid, rabbit in a snare stillness. He stood slowly and motioned toward the hallway. I followed him, wordless, toward the little break room that only ever smelled like burnt coffee and dust. He shut the door behind us. I didn't know, he blurted out. Jake, man, I had no idea she was your wife. Seriously, I said. You didn't recognize the last name? He hesitated. I wasn't thinking. We didn't talk like that. She just said she was married. Not to who? She didn't mention me? No, not until after. I didn't speak. I wanted to see if he'd keep going, if he'd start to unravel. She said it wasn't serious, he added, that your marriage was basically over. I swear, if I'd known, you still would have done it. He looked up, shocked. What? You still would have done it, I repeated. You don't strike me as the type who turns things down because of moral high ground. He didn't deny it, just looked at the floor. You know what today is, Ethan? He shook his head. It's the day after my birthday. The day after you slept with my wife in my house, wearing my clothes. He flinched. Actually flinched. I'm not going to hit you, I said. That would be too easy. For both of us. He looked up, confused. You get to go home, I said. Go on with your life. Maybe tell your friends some sob story about how you didn't know. Maybe you even believe that. But I live with the aftermath. I deal with the pieces. And one day, you'll have to deal with your own. I walked out before he could respond. Back to my desk. Back to pretending I still worked here in the same way I had the week before. But something shifted that morning. Because now it wasn't just Claire. Now I had both of them exactly where I needed them. That night, I couldn't stop thinking. I lay on the couch, staring at the ceiling fan spinning above me, hearing every click of its slow rotation like it was counting something down. The image of Ethan's face in that break room played over and over again in my head. The shame. The panic. Good. But the more I thought about it, the clearer it became. This wasn't about revenge. It was about understanding what kind of life I'd actually been living, and what parts of it were real. I opened my laptop again. Day 1 had turned into a full document now for pages long. Notes, screenshots, photos, dates, quotes. Everything she said since I walked in that bedroom. But I wasn't just writing anymore. I was organizing. I started a folder. Called it Claire. Inside it, I dropped a copy of the gym's partner class email. The 12-second video she forgot to delete. The transcript of our porch conversation. I had typed it word for word the moment she left. Screenshots of her text saying, I'm going to my sister's for the night. The timestamped photo of Ethan in my shirt from our bedroom Nest Cam. I hadn't remembered the Nest Cam until just then. It was pointed toward the bedroom door, mostly to check if Toby snuck in. I never thought it would catch anything like that. When I watched the footage, my hands went cold. There was no intimacy shown, nothing graphic, but the audio was clear enough. Claire giggling. Ethan saying, Are you sure we have time? Claire answering, Don't worry. He's working late. She knew. She planned it. No moment in my life has ever felt so still, so precise. Like time was choosing that second to carve a scar across everything I thought I knew. I saved the video, named it Exhibit 1. I didn't know yet if I would need to use it, but it was now part of the story. And stories like this, they don't just stay quiet, especially when the people telling them are done pretending. 2 days later, Claire came back. Unannounced. I was in the middle of reheating leftovers when I heard the knock. Not the doorbell. She didn't want it to feel formal, I guess. She wanted to be gentle, familiar. I opened the door, and there she was, standing on the porch in a long coat, holding a box. She looked tired, like she hadn't slept since the night she left. I just wanted to bring some of your things from the upstairs closet, she said quietly. And the photo books. I figured, maybe you'd want those. I took the box. Didn't invite her in. She hesitated. Can we talk for just a minute? I thought about it, then nodded once. We sat in the living room, on opposite sides, just like before. Toby climbed onto the cushion beside me. Claire reached out instinctively to pet him. He pulled away. She swallowed. I've been thinking a lot, she started. About everything. About how fast it happened. About how stupid it was. Still no. I'm sorry. Just more spinning. I don't even know what I was doing, she continued. I was feeling invisible, Jake. I felt like I wasn't wanted. Like maybe if someone else wanted me, I could feel whole again. I let her finish. Then I said, You didn't just feel invisible, Claire. You made me feel irrelevant. Her eyes filled. I know. No. I said, voice low. I don't think you do. She looked at me like she was expecting some flicker of old softness. Some signal that we were on the brink of fixing things. Instead, I stood up. Claire, I'm not trying to hurt you, but you need to understand something. She straightened slightly. I'm not staying in this house with you. I'm not pretending this didn't happen. And I'm not making this easier so you can sleep at night. Her lip trembled. So, what? That's it. No, I said. It's not it. I walked over to the counter, picked up a manila envelope, and handed it to her. She looked down. Inside was a packet of printed documents. The title on the top sheet, Petition for Dissolution of Marriage. Claire didn't say anything for a long time. She just held the papers in her lap, staring at the heading like it was written in another language. Finally, so that's where we are. I nodded. That's where we are. She left without asking more. This time, when the door closed, I didn't feel numb. I felt steady, and for the first time in days, I slept. The divorce process started quietly. There were no screaming matches. No phone calls in the middle of the night. Claire stayed at her sister's place. I stayed at the house for now. It was eerie how civil everything seemed on the outside, considering what had detonated just days before. But under the surface, everything was war. My attorney, Davis, was the kind of guy who didn't blink. Military posture. Measured words. He read my file twice before he even asked a question. When I told him what had happened, all of it, including the birthday, the video, the met yesterday lie, he didn't look surprised. He just leaned back in his chair and said, "Jake, you've got leverage." We filed under marital misconduct, not just on the basis of infidelity, but the fact that she'd brought the affair into our shared home and documented it through messages, photos, and even video. Judges don't like this kind of blatant disrespect, Davis explained. It's not just the cheating, it's the arrogance. We submitted everything, screenshots, emails, even the Nest Cam footage. I didn't feel proud of any of it. It wasn't revenge. It was just truth, in hard copy. Claire's lawyer responded a week later with a request for mediation. They wanted to avoid a courtroom. Too late. Because a few days after that, I got a message from Ethan. He was fired. Apparently someone in HR had seen the footage and flagged it internally. Davis didn't send it to them. We hadn't made anything public. But all it took was a whisper, a rumor, and a name on a document. Someone pulled his file. Noticed the conflict of interest. They called it ethics violation. He called it career suicide. He asked to meet. Said he wanted to apologize. I ignored it. This wasn't about closure. It was about accountability. And Claire? She stopped texting. Stopped calling. She knew. She knew I wasn't bluffing. She knew I wasn't breaking. She knew the man she thought would collapse was sitting quietly with the truth stacked in folders, ready for court. Court was quiet. Not like on TV. No dramatic shouting. No banging gavels. No gasps from the crowd. Just fluorescent lights, dry voices, and the steady clack of a keyboard as the clerk recorded everything that was said. Claire sat across the room in a gray suit I didn't recognize. She looked smaller than I remembered. Not physically, just reduced. Like she was trying to disappear behind politeness and pretense. Her lawyer did most of the talking. She didn't look at me once. Davis spoke clearly, factually. No embellishment, just the facts. A marriage of nearly 10 years. Evidence of infidelity inside the marital home. Prior knowledge of emotional instability on the respondent's part. Damaging footage recorded passively, not planted, not manipulated. Repeated dishonesty after discovery of the affair. We presented the file, all of it. Claire's attorney objected at first, called it excessive and invasive. The judge looked at the documents for a few seconds longer than I expected. Then he said, "Motion denied." Claire finally looked at me. It wasn't anger or heartbreak in her eyes. It was realization. For the first time, I think she understood that this wasn't something she could talk her way out of. That there was no emotional leverage left to pull. No tearful apology that would make the damage go away. This wasn't about love anymore. This was about consequences. 2 weeks later, the ruling came down. Favorable division of assets. I kept the house. No spousal support. Judgment based on misconduct. It was over. No celebration. No champagne. Just papers in a folder and a quiet ride home. I let Toby hang his head out the window like always. The sun was low. The air was sharp. And for the first time in weeks, I breathed without weight. When I stepped back into the house, my house, I stood for a moment in the doorway. It felt different now. Quieter. Honest. I walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, sat at the table, and I smiled. Because she lied. She broke it. She thought I'd fall apart. But I didn't. I stood up.